Hello, everyone. We are finally back on the Monday Garrison. Today we'll be talking about mobility industry and its trend. And here it starts. As you can see from the articles recently, and also on the news and the press, Hyundai opened one of the smartest factory in America. Also, they decided to dedicate massive amount of investments toward the American manufacturing facility developments, and also the robotaxi from Tesla. And I was wondering what's going on in the mobility ecosystem and industry. And I'm pretty sure, like mobility, we're always onto something, maybe bus or metro, or sometimes on our own vehicle or a taxi. It's an industry that is very close to our daily life, but at the same time, we're not really understanding what's behind. I think the main idea of mobility is pretty simple. It was all about coming from A to location B faster, easier, further, safer, cheaper, sustainable, and more keywords to come along with. And recent days, according to McKinsey report, now the keyword has changed into autonomous, connectivity, shared mobility, and digitization. When I look back, maybe when I was like 9, I was on my dad's car. There was like a small TV that could rarely have a connectivity. And then we never imagined that such thing as connectivity would be worth considering when it comes to when we're thinking about mobility or cars. And now connectivity became something, right? And shared mobility, as if we were living in Korea, we're quite familiar with SoCar and TrueCar. And even today, when I was trying to come to the venue, I was looking at the Kakao Taxi app, and they were also referring me an option of shared mobility, which was much more cheaper than what SoCar has offered before. So I think our ecosystem is changing in a very fast pace in the mobility industry. And this is the report that came from the McKinsey Quarterly. As you can see, there has been 950 billion US dollar invested up to 3,800 companies since 2010 till now, which is, I was pretty amazed about the numbers, because when we think about which industries or which sectors are leading in the investment field by portion, I mean, these days it's quite obvious we're all thinking about AI or semiconductors, but now, like mobility, 950 billion, that's pretty interesting. And another interesting figure that we can learn is that only 7.5% of investment from traditional automotive companies, which means such companies like Hyundai or Ford, General Motors, Mercedes, they were not really investing much directly because their portion was 7.5, and is starting to be overruled by other related sectors such as gas companies, natural resource companies, etc., etc. So, which part of mobility has been invested the most? Electrification, EV business has been obviously invested the most with the $343 billion. Autonomous driving, $213 billion. Connectivity, $84 billion. And digitization, 82. Shared mobility, 225 billion US dollar. But if we just look at the total amount of investments, yep, you can tell that electrification has much higher total value, but when we get to see the average investment value divided by the number of the companies that has been invested with the amount, then we can also see that autonomous has definitely had a higher valuation per company when it comes to an investment. And then it will be the shared mobility, the second, and the third is electrification and digitization, and lastly, connectivity. So, which means if we are a startup who's trying to make more electronic vehicles, we would have high chance of having less valuation preferred on our investments. Then, in the same time, we have to look for the niche. And today I'll be talking a lot about niche, especially when it comes to the mobility industry. But I think it should be applied in the other industries as well, because for other industries as well, for certain clusters within the industries are overheated and everyone's doing it. So focusing on the niche market could actually enhance your survival rates. Mobility and industry behind. It's an autopod comparison between EV and internal combustion engine vehicles. This is pretty interesting statistic that came from Japanese Autopod Industry Association last year. When this data came out on the market, it had a pretty big impact, and I recently reviewed about it, and I was pretty much surprised. For the internal combustion engine vehicles, it contains about 30,000 autopods compared to the electronic vehicles, 19,000, and hydrogen vehicles, 24,000. And what can we learn from here? Like, if our next era vehicle gets to be totally alternated with electronic vehicle, then we're most likely to lose the autopod business that was sustaining their lives in the internal combustion engine vehicles would be lost, which is about 11,000. So interesting figure. Moreover, if we see the comparison just simply between the electronic vehicle and ICE vehicle engine, it contains about 6,900 autopods, and electronic vehicles, none, zero. And powertrain has less autopods than demanded compared to the ICE vehicles. Body, exactly same. Brake system, exactly same. And for the electronics, even less than the original vehicles, which means I think over time, when we get to hit the critical mass to realize the economy of scale, then electronic vehicle manufacturing costs can become even more cheaper, and maybe even cheaper vehicles can be provided on our daily life. And I think these kind of changes definitely brought many players to focus on niche markets based on the existing technologies or new technologies to survive. Survival is our natural instincts when it comes to a paradigm shift and whenever the industry changes. And the unique niche case, today's special guest is actually coming from this niche industries within the mobility sector, which is represented by BAV. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, BAV, but I found this company pretty interesting on LinkedIn. Here and there, I saw a lot of press release, what kind of partnerships they were going on. So they're focused on the tire ecosystem of mobility market, and considering the 20% higher wearing rate of tire from electronic vehicles, we believe that tire industry is also a very interesting niche we can study about. When we get to see the global automotive tire industry sales value is $240.9 billion US, which is not small at all, because it's like roughly one fourth of the entire investment that has been made on the mobility sector that gets to be earned per annum. And their YOY growth expected per annum on 2025 is 5.9%, which is a pretty big growth. It has a stronger growth than the South Korean stock market, so I would say it's a positive figure. And with our guest today, we will be seeking for more niches and understand more about what kind of industries or opportunities are lying in these niche market, focused on the mobility sector, but also from his personal experience. And we would like to introduce Ron to the stage today.
Hey, Ron.
All right, Ron. So please introduce yourself to us first.
Sure. I believe we never talked in English before.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's very new.
Yeah.
And it's thank you for having me, and a pleasure to be here. Mm-hmm. I'm Ron. I'm VP of Global Business at BAV Intelligent Tire System. Mm-hmm. So what we do basically in a blurb is we make tires smarter and intelligent to revolutionize the future of logistics and supply chain by making tires smarter and intelligent. There's not too many components within the vehicle that remains analog, and tire is one of them. So I believe today's topic, when talking about the niche, I believe we falls in right within that category.
Yeah, yeah. Tire is something I never thought about until I get to know Banff, and it really blew my mind. And I mean, talking about niche and uniqueness, your career is pretty unique in South Korea as well. I mean,
Is it?
you're coming from an accelerator background. You're like coming from coach to player. Most of the people goes like other way around, right? They like to start from startups and then move on accelerator. And tell me also a bit about your career.
Sure. So I started my career as a accelerator slash VC in Korea called the Zephyr's Lab. Now it became one of the major players in the sense of the investment size, because now it manages over $200 million as a fund. But back then it was it's really early days of the Zephyr's Lab. So I was basically accelerating the global companies who wanted to land in Korea and get to help them with their networking and business expansions while they're here physically in Korea via a program called K-Startup Grand Challenge. So I was an operator, but I need to claim myself I was too junior to guide the CEOs from the companies, even though they're early stage companies. But they have a lot more expertise and background. So I'm a bit ashamed now to try to guide them. But based on these experiences, I learned a lot on how to grow the startups more efficiently. After my experience at the Zephyr's Lab, I moved to Bay Area-based early stage venture capital / open innovation advisory firm called the Minded the Bridge. So Minded the Bridge is an open innovation advisory firm / micro VC, and have a portfolio of 2 unicorns, namely Assistic and Samba TV. So I wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit more on what Open Innovation Advisory Firm is, because I believe that a lot of people, audiences here as well, have a good understanding of what micro VC is. So Open Innovation Advisory Firm is basically scouting and sourcing for conglomerates for their innovation needs. So you see open innovation challenges everywhere via there's good platforms even in Korea called branch and kstartupgeo.kr and etc. But that's basically an open call, which means conglomerates and multinational companies are openly, publicly sourcing for a certain type of solution because there is a certain need from the business units from their entity. However, they don't want to expose the strategic, sourcing
For sure.
Because it's basically telling your competitors what your strategic future.
What's your
future is.
weekend?
Yeah. What's your weekend, and also what you will and what you are trying to invest in the future. So basically, it's like a headhunting. So basically, they they hire open innovation advisory firm who have a good network and good understanding of the startups. So they closely source for the startups that meets their internal business needs. So I was serving a few different Fortune 500 companies, especially from the mobility field, industrial construction area. So I had this understanding, and I was very happy and pleasant to work with them, especially understanding how startups could lead this initial meeting to actual contract conversion. So based on this experience, I get to understand and learn more how startups should pitch and scratch some of the areas that conglomerates are actually wants. Based on this experience, I helped Korean startups to work with the global companies at the same time. And BAMF, Intelligent Tire System, now I'm serving as a VP of the global business, is one of the companies that I wanted to invest in. But before I move on, so before I make investment decisions, I always do my personal kind of niche there's another word, niche, approach before making an investment decision. So I basically work as a sales guy on behalf of them. So I linked this BAMF solution, I pitched this solution to the relevant stakeholder, basically a target company of the BAMF's intelligent tire system. And the conversion rate and the feedback from target companies were super high and positive. So this is the reason why I decided to rather join than investing in this company that I am working for right now.
Interesting journey. Just a quick pop-up question though. Like, you were in this.
I don't like that pop-up question.
No, it's going to be pretty simple though. Like, Mind the Bridge, more like closed innovation, handpick technologies or startups for the conglomerates, and now BAMF is also selling it to larger companies, larger scale companies, conglomerates, etc. And the commonality in between two is that you have to deal with the needs of a conglomerates, unmet needs of conglomerates.
Correct. That is correct.
And we get to see a lot of startups that has B2B business models that has no idea how to make B2B sales, where to start with, or have a totally wrong understandings about unmet needs of the conglomerates. Would there be any advice or any patterns that you found from like B2B sales?
Sure. I can give you. I can get paid on this, but
yes,
I guess
please.
Giving you a free tip for special audiences today. So basically, my sales cycle that I always follow is starting from prospecting. So knowing what conglomerates wants, and make that sharp approach and finding a right department, finding a right decision maker is the very, very first step that you need to do your homework on. So, for example, of course, when you're at the early stage, if this is like very first time, trying to sell your product, especially to the overseas B2B target, you never know what they want. So how do I do the study? The next question is. So there is what Open Innovation, why Open Innovation Advisory Firm is there for. Basically, Open Innovation Advisory Firms' clients are conglomerates, but the reason why they get paid is by per matches with the startup and how much conversion rate that they achieved and percentage. The number of the percentage that from the deal that they made through this introductions. So basically, they will help you to at least look at your deck, and they are the ones who know what conglomerates or multinational companies' needs are. So targeting them, Mind the Bridge is one of the good sources to tap into, but also there is a leading and I would say larger open innovation player, and especially in the Bay Area, which is called the Plug and Play. So their innovation managers / innovation advisors would be happily assist you to matchmake with the B2B clients that you are targeting for. That is the very first tip that I wanted to hands out. And also, try to use an AI on the keyword searching on your target companies. And based on their, looking at their, investor relations. They have investor relations, of course, not just the startups have. Okay. So they have the strategic planning for the future next year and following year also. So you probably get to have the gist and understanding that which company that you have to target for. That's my second tip.
That's utter chill. Like, never thought of that.
And my last tip, that just kind of came out from my brain right now, is that I never knew that. Did you know that when you use your, do you use LinkedIn Premium?
Yeah.
Did you know that if you exceed 2,000 mails, messages, as the limit for per month? Did you know about that?
No, I didn't know.
I knew that since my very first week at BAMF. So I basically, curated all these different messagings, try to talk with different stakeholders within this ecosystem to find the right prospect. Whoa. So after this, I'm calculating a conversion prospect to an actual meeting happens, I'll be able to find the sharp, right, target to boost my conversion rate from the meeting to actual contract done.
That's insane. But like, okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, like we should keep it for like another day.
Sure,
But
sure.
yeah. Then from your tremendous journey, although you briefly introduced us about BAF, like tell us a bit more about BAF. Like, what are you guys specifically up to? What are the core technologies, as long as in the disclosable limits?
This is the best part of today's episode, I think. So spare me like 3 to 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sure. So as mentioned, BAMF is revolutionizing the future of mobility and supply chain by making tires smarter and intelligent. So basically, we wanted to achieve absolute safety from tire-related accidents, and also achieve fuel efficiency, fuel saving for that have tires, a vehicle that have tires. I mean, passenger vehicle, they're have a good interest in the fuel efficiency and tire safety, but when thinking about who cares more onto these topics as commercial vehicles, basically truck drivers or fleets that have numerous number of the trucks, and because they run 8 to 10 hours a day, especially in the States. And the market size, the trucking market size is $700 billion just in the US itself. So more than 70% of the goods, ground transportation, is via using a truck and trailer system.
Yeah.
However, one of the biggest cause of accidents, especially from trucking, is from tire related. Tire gets blow out, tire failure, brake failure, etc.
Okay.
However, of course, the biggest cause of accident is from fatigue driving, and there are LiDAR company, radar, camera. There's deep tech technology is trying to solve that issue because bigger market size, bigger needs on the to prevent accidents. But there's not too many companies or university labs try to focus on solving the second biggest cause of accidents. So that's the part where BAV comes in. And earlier you mentioned about the EVs, and because their battery cells, they're heavier. The vehicle is heavier compared to the engine combustion vehicles, and also because of its faster 0-60, tire replacement cycle is reduced. And also when talking about autonomy, self-driving trucks, robo-taxis, their aim is to maximize their profit, which means 24/7 operation, which also means more tire stress. So we believe the tire data will even be more important in the future compared to nowadays. So BAMF, we are making tires smarter and intelligent by developing an intelligent tire sensor that's mounted at the inner liner of the tire. So we're not just a sensor company, but we're also an AI and system company, which means that leveraging our tri-axis accelerometer sensor that's mounted at the inner liner of the tire and utilizing our AI, we can not only detect pressure and the temperature in a real time, 20 milliseconds of the latency, but also thanks to our AI, we'll be able to capture load estimation. This is like critical for truck trailer system. Also wheel alignment status. So we'll be able to detect the toe angle. That's very helpful to save fuels because single degree of the misalignment toe causes about 4 to 5% decrease in the fuel efficiency due to the rolling resistance. And we can, because tire is the sole point of the contact of the road, we'll be able to understand then estimate the road coefficient, the slipperiness of the road, including the black ice. So these are the features that we provide, not just to the vehicle manufacturers, but mainly fleet operators and also the self-driving robo trucks.
Awesome. So when you first joined in BAMF, there must have been a thesis in your head, these would be the main customers of BAMF, right? And when it comes to reality, I think there must have been a lot of customer personas that was outside of your thesis that you guys are even interested in tires? Like, would there be any of those kind of clients that you had?
Yeah, of course. Road management companies or governments that deals with the road maintenance. So tire a lot of people think tire is just the consumables and that just runs vehicles.
Yeah.
But road management can be prepared and also captured from tire data, which means road management companies or this municipals, governments, they wanted to achieve road safety within the limited budget. So, for example, potholes. I mean, LiDAR, radars, cameras are pretty good at capturing the potholes. But reality is, you need to know which pothole will cause the most harmful accidents potentially. So knowing the depths of the pothole is the very first step. So because tire is the sole point of the contact to the road, we'll be able to capture the depths of the potholes, at least what vehicle feels, and we help. We're not saying that we're replacing LiDAR, radar, or cameras, but we're more of a complementary solution that can achieve road safety via tire intelligence.
Awesome. Okay, so how is it only trucks and vehicles, or is it also including like industrial vehicles or motorbikes, anything that contains tires?
Yeah, yes or no. Yes or no. Yes and no. Yes and no. So, as a startup, despite we're a 4 years old company, if you search our name on Google, our recent partnership is with the Volkswagen Carriage, Naira Dynamics, and Capex by Volvo Group, DHL, Hyundai Motor Group, etc. So, even though we achieved a lot and we are very happy with working with our clients/partners. It is always super important to focus on the sharp target. So while we remain our priority business target at fleet operators, commercial vehicle fleets like DHL, FedEx, etc. But we started to launch and have been working with passenger vehicle manufacturers as a value-added feature. And also, we are going to soon to launch OTR product, which means that our sensors could be leveraged on port vehicles and also the agriculture vehicles and mining vehicles.
Awesome.
In upcoming Q4.
Oh, so I see a lot of startups that's posting like, oh, we have signed up a new partnership with, I don't know, big name, anything like BMW or 7-Eleven, right? And I was always wondering, like, everyone says, like, we have signed up a partnership. And if we go look into the press release, it's like, so what are you exactly up to with them, right? And BAF also has launched a lot of partnerships with major companies in the industries. What are the scopes that you guys are collaborating in or partnering in? Like, is it to provide like specific needs, or is it to co-develop? Like, is it, if it's such a sensitive issue, you don't need to bring it up. But just roughly, like, even when you were in Mind the Bridge, you must have engaged such partnerships. So,
I wanted to elaborate this answer in a different perspective. So, when thinking about high return, I mean, high risk, high return. Usually it's the ones, is the vertical that takes time. That's related to human health. So the healthcare, medical device, vaccines, investment time there, not just, technical development, but, validation, verification.
yeah.
It's longer than, CPG or just you see everyday platform type of the business. And the second, a good example is automotive, because it's also related to the human health and safety. So you need a longer time to actually prove yourself to your clients before you sign this PR. Basically, if you want, these big names don't want to lose their reputation just because of this hardware. So they're very much cautious on publishing these PRs. So what I wanted to share is that you need to prove your technology first. And when they're happy, when they're super happy, these big names would be
allowing
allowing it with a possibility.
Awesome.
With a possibility.
Awesome. Okay. So how do you see the mobility industry as you're in part of this niche, considering a lot of hope and at the same time skepticism? What are the diverse opportunities lying within the mobility industries, and what are the niche that has been unforeseen?
Yeah. After I joined, BEV, I am focusing too much on tires, and I should admit that I don't want to claim myself as an expert on the other fields, that especially the tire intelligence. But what I see interesting and what I wanted to kind of advocate today is the rising of the robo-taxis and road to autonomy, basically, comparison between the robo-taxis and robo-trucks. So basically, ultimately, L4, L5, the full autonomy to achieve different parts and high-tech, deep-tech auto parts needs to be there along with the AI technologies. So, for example, because I've been dealing with a lot of clients, especially self-driving truck companies, they have a good LiDAR sensors, they have a good radar sensor, they have a good cameras, but the real life limitation of the sensors is that you need a human labor to manage those, which means if you drive 8 to 10 hours a day, there would be a bug on the actual cameras. And also when it rains, you need to clean them up and drop-free lenses. Those are something that I see that have a good future. And also there's a lot of market needs. And also, for example, these cameras are either inside the vehicle or exterior part of the vehicle, which means that if there is a raining, not only the drop-free lenses are needed, but also raindrop detection wipers are one of the key desire and needs from the our self-driving truck clients that we have. So those are one of the three main components that I hear actually from our client side. That wants to achieve more than L4.
So, I mean, how about autonomous driving? Like, it's becoming a thing everywhere. As mentioned, Tesla's doing it, Waymo's doing it. You go to Pango, you will see 42 Dot test driving. You will see Seoul buses that's ran remotely. And I still have, like, I don't want to say huge, but certain amount of skepticism toward autonomous driving. But at the same time, I think autonomous driving is quite safer than human drivers in a way. So, yeah, what's your take on that?
Sure. There's a huge difference between robo-taxis and robo-trucks. Not just the configuration-wise, but the technology stacks that it requires. So as I'm more expert or more knowledgeable in the sense of the self-driving trucks more than robo-taxis, but there's a good milestones from a global level. For example, Tesla recently launched their robo-taxi offerings at Texas. But what I wanted to highlight and what I want audiences to focus is that these robo-taxis are, especially Tesla, they have a remote assistant with an actual wheel at a different site. So driver out means a lot, of course. But there's no doubt that Waymo from Google, they were offering the solution to certain of the areas from a few years ago. And then even though their approaches and technological stacks are a bit different, but I believe using just the cameras, if it's really achievable, if you wanted to achieve L4, L and above. But in the sense of the FSD and the electrification, Tesla are doing the amazing job. But there's good questions that can be debated and discussed if this technology or Tesla can become a really launch full autonomy robo-taxis in an L5 or L4 level. In anywhere there, L4 and L5.
Since you're much more familiar on the truck side of the business,
right.
How close are we to the autonomous driving of trucks? I think it's a totally different game.
Right. So there are a few major players within the self-driving trucks. So Aurora, Torque Robotics, they're backed by Daimler. Kodiak Robotics. They're a major player, but they're more. I mean, recently they've been focusing more on the unmanned vehicles for the U.S. Army, basically. And then, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I wanted to highlight this company actually. The I'm aging. Bot Auto.
Bot Auto.
Bot Auto.
Okay.
Yeah. The Bot Auto is a company that's established by the Saudi Hao. It is formerly CEO and founder of the Too Simple, one of the very first autonomous trucking companies that's listed on Nasdaq. There was a lot of incidents happen after they got listed, but this founder started his new autonomous trucking company in Texas. Despite they were established on June or July of last year, they raised more than 40 million up to date. And then he had a lot of lessons learned and key takeaways from the previous experience from the Too Simple. I don't want to elaborate too much on what the accidents were, but they were achieving good milestones. And I heard that they're soon to demonstrate the driver out from San Antonio and some part of the Texas. And Aurora is one of the leading companies that recently achieved the driver out demo with the Texas. Even though all these big names and leading autonomous trucking companies are headquartered in different areas, but due to the benefits from the Texas regulations and law benefits, main operations is happening in Texas. So major accomplishment, achievements in the autonomous trucking companies will happen in Texas. I have no doubt on that.
What's the correlation between the evolvement of autonomous driving and the life cycle of tires, such as like maybe autonomous driver like bots could be much more efficient on driving so that it would extend the life cycle of tires, or if the BOM system can be connected with the autonomous driving technologies so that they would recognize the current condition of the road and the tire itself and adjust their drivings, or like, are there any correlations that you guys found?
Yes, of course. So, usually this robot trucks especially, they don't have a backseat.
Oh.
They really don't have a backseat. I drove a few from different, giant companies that I mentioned that. And they don't have a backseat. Instead of the backseat, they have the GPUs, servers.
Okay.
So which means the vehicle itself is super expensive. You cannot imagine how much it is.
Okay.
Some good ones, they're, considering the CPM, cost per mile, that is now one of the trending word in the sense of not just the technological investment, but if the technology can actually meet the requirements of the needs, and if this autonomous trucking technologies can meet this for-profit, business for a business. So, basically these vehicles, autonomous vehicles, robo trucks are way more expensive compared to just regular, human driving vehicles. So they don't want to ruin the system and want just because of the tires. So even though we have a various, features that we can provide, the very first and foremost feature that they're having an interest is tire blowout and slow leak function. Tire when you stamp it to the nail, even the passenger vehicle driver wouldn't tell. And usually, tire pressure monitoring systems takes about 30 minutes to an hour to detect the situation. However, because our sensor can detect within 20 milliseconds, nearly real time, they'll be able to manage the vehicles, reduce the vehicles' risk, and also with goods movement from their clients. So when thinking about commercial vehicle fleet operators like DHL and robo trucks, their clients is usually the manufacturers of the goods. Expensive goods, Louis Vuitton, Hennessy, LVMH, or it could be vaccines or medical devices. So they're not just about time sensitive on the delivery, but also one of the key needs from this autonomous trucking companies and trucking companies is to achieve the safety of the goods movement. So by delivering just tire blowout and tire soil detection function itself is getting a lot of attraction from potential clients and our clients nowadays.
That's very interesting. What comes up to my mind is that, I think it was about 3-4 years ago, 5-6 years ago, I heard that there are still road rangers in the States that those mile trains.
Yeah.
Once you get stuck over there, you just have to wait until the train passes.
Right.
And I heard that there are robberies still happening towards these kind of mile trains, like back in the
That's
I
a
don't
good
know,
catch.
17th centuries. And imagine if it's a auto truck that has GPS and all these computer systems behind, high tech, expensive facilities within the truck, and no person. Once it stops, I think it can be exposed to a lot of different dangers as well.
Right. That's a good catch. So actually, there are sourcing for smart locks and safety type of solution as well at the same time.
Interesting.
Good prospect.
And
Good insight.
cybersecurity stuff as well?
Exactly.
I see.
Exactly. So as the GPT, people somehow, some of the people don't get to understand what GPT really stands for. It stands for generative pre-trained transformer. So it could, as a rise of the GPT advancement and a lot of AI, especially the neural network technologies, not just, lifestyle, B2C or daily usage arises, but also within the autonomy, there's a lot of, advancement through thanks to this rise of the GPTs.
But coming back to this tire business, why not tire companies directly comes up to you guys Kumho or I don't know, Hankook Tires, Continental, Firestone? I thought they should be the guys who are most interested in and which tire wears out the fastest. They should be seeking for those kind of informations.
Right. You know pretty many brands, tire brands.
I done my homework, so.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, a lot of tire companies wanted to get in this field. And we are working with 6 different tire companies from top 20 globally. But what I wanted to emphasize is that even though tire companies wanted to get in this field for more than a decade ago, you never seen a smart tire in their real life. Why? Before that, I wanted to share the background, why they wanted to, achieve the tire intelligence. Legacy players like top 5 players, namely Goodyear, Continental, Michelin, and Pirelli, etc. As the rise of some of the Chinese and India tire manufacturers with a competitive pricing, with a premium quality, the only way to achieve their market share within this tire scene, they thought that it is via tire intelligence. So especially these legacy players in top 10 wanted to achieve the tire intelligence, but one of the very first and foremost step to tire digitalization is sufficient power supply to the tire sensor, which means tire intelligence means basically entire AI. And you need a battery that be able to run AI.
True.
And you can't install a huge battery inside the tire.
Yeah.
So they were trying a different methodology to power the sensor. They actually wired inside the tire. They actually, tried that.
Then it's gonna rip it out the wires.
Right. And also they used inductive charging. For example, when you're charging your phone wirelessly, but in the sense of the passenger vehicle, distance between the tire to the body, it ranges up to about 100 millimeters, and commercial vehicle is even goes up to 300 millimeters. So range limitation happens. And Bridgestone and a lot of tire companies initiated a new approach called energy harvesting. So basically, they're transitioning this mechanical energy, momentum energy of the tire to the electrical energy. So they basically put a physioelectric or vibration models inside the tire and convert this physical energy into the electrical energy. It was very interesting, and it seemed plausible. However, it came to the conclusion, still the research is going on, but from my aspect, and a lot of lead operators actually think that tires, technicians need to be trained, and it's very expensive. But most importantly, tire size has limitations, and speed of the vehicle has a limitation, which means power that can be generated from the tire has a limitation. This is the reason why you'd be able to only see pressure and the temperature from your vehicle, because that's basically raw data, and coin battery cell is good enough. So we solved that, powering issue via and thanks to our intelligent powering system. So we had a little device that's installed to the mud flap or wheel wall of the vehicle that's connected to the vehicle's battery. So it's charging the sensor when the sensor met this profiler's range. As the sensor receives sufficient power supply, we'd be able to sample faster, 1K to 4K. So 1,000 to 4,000 times per second per tire. And our AI makes it more, with a better resolution, with a better accuracy. So we are, solving all this circulations and every needs of the steps that's needed to make tire more smarter and intelligent.
So it seems like just coming to your business only, if we get to dig in deeper, it contains technology for batteries, charging, electronics, obviously vehicles, automotives, and same time hardwares and softwares, data analytics. It's a combination of multiple aspects of technologies surrounding the mobility. And now I'm curious, what motivated your founder, and what kind of background is he coming from? He must not be a person who can do everything by himself, right? So
right. So I cannot mention the specific name of the company is from, but he's from one of the biggest electronics company in Korea. Probably
electronics background. Okay.
Yeah, and he was in charge of the wireless charging.
And
he was the very first person to actually commercialize the magnetic resonance technology along with MIT globally. So based on this wireless charging, expertise, he applied and he understood the needs of the tire intelligence. So that's where we began.
Interesting. Then when you first met your current boss, what was the stage? Where were they? Compared to now?
Yeah, they raised the seed round, so it was about 200K, but they were in the tips program. So yeah, it was very early. The very first time that I met was 2021 June-ish, and then BAMF was incorporated on December 2020. So it's been about 7 months since operating the business, and now it's growing.
I think it's one of those common dreams for many founders globally. I don't think it's in Korea though, but globally, is that having a good EIR or accelerator or venture capital backed, or having a background behind talents in-house, right? And what should startups do to get those kind of talents to have such an interest? I'm going to leave my job and join your company, and I'm going to hop on your ambition. What should startups have?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. You need to find the right accelerator and find a good person who's charged of your startup, basically.
Okay, this is slightly a different question.
Okay.
What's your take on EIR?
Take on EIR.
Yeah. Do you think it's an efficient model, or like, do you think it would work in Korea?
Well, I personally believe EIR itself it's beneficial for the startups, but it's always about the you know return on investment. So if you're like paying I don't know $50 per year, and you can utilize your network and their expertise, why not? But the problem is EIR. Some of the different EIR contracts exist, and I wanted to give you a good example of how we achieve this kind of network and experts within our company. So if you search our name on Google, we have been appointed the formal FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, from the U.S. Department of Transportation as our advisor / mentor. And the other one that we have as our mentor is from the global director from the Bridgestone. And how we achieve that, and we are not giving them a fortune, for example. So there's a lot of, government grants program, even for the foreigners, that matches you with the mentors. And then usually the startups rely on the accelerators or operating, managing companies to source the right expert or mentor on behalf of you. But if you do your homework and if you search and do this prospecting, who would have a right, connections, right background, you can ask to this organization, organizers or accelerators to, hey, I already know this guys, and can you just pay on behalf of me? And then from this initial, connection, there's a lot more that you can achieve, not just the mentorship. So I just don't want to, if the EIR, program is right or wrong on, Korea's ecosystem, but there is a lot more network and expertise, and think about, return on investment.
So you gotta think outside the box, huh?
A bit, and growth hacking.
Yeah, back in the days, I was asking for one of our mentors to join our company, until it hits the certain level, and eventually deal didn't go off, and I think it was lucky. But anyhow, he was asking for a lot, and I never thought it was fair. So the deal broke off, and I started to see things like a bit more differently. And if I see like other EIRs or quote unquote EIRs, some of them just go pro bono and let me know when things works out, right? So I think these compensation models in South Korea is not really aligned with the idea of EIR and the abroad. And this might be a silly question. The thing is these days, building a prototype, building a product is becoming easier and easier.
Totally.
And you are in a team of multi-complex technicians, engineers, and what's your take? Do you still think we're living in an era of engineer background founders, or much more like sales-driven founders, mission-driven founders?
Depends on what your business model is. Of course.
Yeah, for sure.
And ambition and goal that you wanted to achieve as a founder. So always big M&A or IPO isn't just the only options. But if you wanted to have just the small scale sustainable business, it's still a startup, and it's one of the ways that startup founders can foster and keep on track with. So if you really wanted to solve deep tech era, let me frame it this way. There's two items in the startup field, or any type of the product. Good to have product or need to have product. If you wanted to build up a need to have product, probably, in the most cases, if you're a technical background founder, it would make more sense to the VCs. But good to have product, and you have a good understanding of the market and business background or sales aspect background, could make a good sense. And yeah, I think that's is a good conclusion of your question.
Awesome. Now I have 2 questions left. And
Two more?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and my first question is, what's the most interesting market or interesting product within or without outside mobility industries that you are seeing as a niche that nobody's interested in right now, but like, I think this might be interesting, right? So what I see is that these days my mom runs an embroidery shop. It's all about craftsmanship. And I'm like thinking, okay, when AI conquers everything, that's something I should dig into.
All right.
Like those kind of business or niche markets, yeah.
Not just as a startup founder, but
Yeah.
as a personal, you need to think about not just the next step, but next step after the next step.
True.
So
100%.
I'm very surprised that not too many people actually think about this journey and planning.
Yeah.
And I always think about this, and that's the reason why I'm getting a hair loss nowadays.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But recently I get to dig into some of the good initial step was going to be a next step after the next step. Is that what are the areas that AI couldn't replace? So it's basically, especially within Korea ecosystem, K-pop is something that's irreplaceable, I think. There is Japan and China. They have invested in tons of money, try to achieve a same level and same exposure as the K-pop artists have, and they're investing like literally like 10x and 100x compared to Korean entertainment or media companies. However, they couldn't achieve since even now. I believe there's something that K-pop have the elegance and attraction.
True.
The other one is the food, actually. Like people in Korea, they always think about three main pillars in the lifestyle, which is the 부동산,
Clothing, real estate, and foods, yeah?
yeah, food.
Yeah.
Especially, robots can make foods, of course, and even
Yeah.
coffee nowadays. You see it everywhere.
Yeah.
But basically, food is where you buy an experience. And this food area and also the K-pop or artist entertainment area, which company have the both of the, this main as a major business? I think it's a CJ.
Oh.
Yeah. So I personally believe the CJ have a pretty good, potential in driving Korean ecosystem
Whoa.
against, AI advancement.
You bought some shares?
No, not at all. But I believe that's the good company with a good core elements and foundations that can bring Korea somewhat different and protect from the AI advancement.
With a little bit of owner risk, but yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Now I got to move on to the last question. What's the end goal that you want to see in BOM? Like, do you want to see it going public? Do you want to see the system to be loaded on Tesla or Mercedes or Aston Martin? Like, what's the end goal from here?
Well, I think Adam, our CEO, would have a better answer on this. But
What you want to see
what
as
I
the team?
want to see. Yeah, I really wanted our sensor and the system to be installed to every single vehicle, especially on our trucks. It's not just the monetary mission that we have, but we wanted to achieve the day when drivers think, how did I ever live without BAM system? And also we wanted to provide an absolute safety from tire-related accidents. So that's my personal goal, qualitative goal. But at the same time, in a sense of the monetary goal, of course, we wanted to achieve Nasdaq IPO first and go to the Nasdaq after.
Beautiful dreams.
Thank you.
Beautiful dreams, and I see it coming close.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more heavy and huge news coming up by end of this year. So hope the audiences to keep an eye on what we do.
Yeah, we'll keep it up to date, and we would have to invite Ron once again, and maybe next time along with your boss to celebrate the massive leap they have achieved throughout 2025, I guess. And thank you everyone for staying with us for today. This was Ron from Banff. This is Garrison, Riso. So feel free to reach us out through our community, through YouTube or LinkedIn. Thank you so much and see you next Monday. Bye-bye.